Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in internet shitlords. And today I'm doing a video a little bit earlier than I had planned to do. But the news, I think, justifies it in that D&D Beyond has just put out an article by Anonymous, apparently. D&D Beyond staff is all they put there. Where they tried to claim that there's misunderstanding and rumors about how the OGL is supposedly being removed, and there in this article they clarify that in fact the OGL is being removed, but it's being replaced. So what does this mean in terms of what D&D wants, what their agenda is, what Wizards, I should say, Wizards Hasbro wants, what their agenda is? Because that has very little to do with what's the best interest for D&D. And also what it means for people creating content. So Wizards did this article on D&D Beyond where they've said that, oh, hey, it's a meatball. Look at that. Meatballs come right into the action. What are you doing, Meatball? Yeah, okay. I agree. So anyways, Wizards is saying that they are going to have an updated system reference document, and they're going to change the terms of the OGL. They're going to release what they call version 1.1 of the OGL in early 2023. And they claim the OGL needs an update. It does not, in fact, to ensure that it keeps doing what it was intended to do. That's bullshit. Allow the D&D community's independent creators to build and play and grow the game we love without allowing things like third parties to mint D&D NFTs and large businesses to exploit our intellectual property. That part is semi-true in that what they really are saying there is there's people making money off of D&D that isn't us, and we want to change that. So they're going to create this OGL 1.1. And they say here, OGL 1.1 makes clear that it only covers material created for use in or as ttrpgs, and those materials only ever permitted as printed media or static electronic files like PDFs or EPUBs. Okay, other type of content like video games and videos are only possible through the Wizards of the Coast fan content policy or a custom agreement with us. So they're stating that the OGL 1.1 explicitly does not cover videos or video games. And, you might at first say, well, okay, fine. So that means that, you can't make a movie based on D&D if you're not Wizards of the Coast. That seems kind of sensible, right? And you can't make an MMORPG based on D&D, one D&D without having a deal with Wizards, right? That seems just basically logical. But what I think a lot of this is actually about is the part that just says videos. It doesn't say movies or films. It doesn't even say if it's for profit or not, right? It's directly claiming that you do not have a right to make videos of D&D. And that doesn't mean like my channel. But it certainly, I think, means stuff like Critical Role, right? Anybody who's playing D&D 5th edition in a live stream or Twitch sort of scenario, or, a pre-filmed, these LARPers of simulating D&D play with celebrities, or more likely D-list celebrities and voice actors, that makes a lot of money, right? We know that. There are 90% of them don't. But 10% of them make a lot of money, right? Like Critical Role. And this is Wizards suddenly saying, well, we're going to get some of that money. And we're going to get quite a bit of it probably because they're not doing it with the OGL. They want their cut. And they also probably want to control who gets to do live stream games of D&D online, right? Because they don't want the people with the wrong politics running a game on Twitch or on YouTube where they're using one D&D. And this also includes virtual tabletops, which is, I think, another really big point, right? Because video games, that includes a VTT. And they say so here, right? Will this affect D&D content and services? It shouldn't. The top VTT platforms have custom agreements with Wizards to do what they do. Yes, but why will I not be surprised now that Wizards has its own virtual tabletop if they suddenly decide that one D&D will not continue the license with any of the other virtual tabletops. So you have to only use Wizards virtual tabletop. I'm suspecting that will be the plan, right? This is all about caging in the profits, you know. So that's going to be a big problem, right? The next thing that they say is that we're offering different terms to creators who make free content and creators who want to sell their products. So if you're making free content, very little is going to change from what you already used to do. But if you're making commercial content, then there's going to be some changes. You're going to have to accept the license terms and let us know what you're offering for sale. So they're going to get gatekeeping privileges. They don't want third-party products that are not fitting their own agenda, right? Second, you must, if you make more than $50,000 a year, you must report OGL-related revenue annually, okay? So if you're going to make one D&D products, third-party products like DM's Guild type of stuff, if you make more than 50 grand a year, you're going to have to report that to Wizards of the Coast. And they need to include a creator product badge in their work. But beyond that, if you make income of more than $750,000 a year, you're going to have to start paying royalties to Wizards of the Coast. Now, $750,000 is a lot of money, right? In fact, $50,000 is quite a bit of money, right? But note that this is not saying in profit. This is saying in income, right? So if you're a publisher, you know, they say, well, there's fewer than 20 creators worldwide that make more than $750,000. They're trying to downplay the significance of this, right? And that's, you know, that's probably true. You know, I'm in the rare tier of people who make a full-time living off RPGs, and my income isn't anywhere near that. Not anywhere, not remotely near that, right? But you know what is. And this is, I think, where it could most likely apply, because I think there's very few companies that are making $750,000 in income from D&D 5th edition, let's say right now, right? I think there's going to be even less that will make any of that kind of money from one D&D, because I think one D&D is on road to being another failed edition, right? They're not calling it 6th edition, but it probably is, and it's going to suck like Worth did, right? But let's say that you're a publisher, and the place where this could happen is if you're doing a Kickstarter, for example, because there are Kickstarters that make hundreds of thousands of dollars in terms of the Kickstarter project. Now, you might have seen a previous video I did about, you know, Kickstarter money and whether you know how that really works. Where a lot of times there are a lot of companies that make hundreds of thousands in a Kickstarter and end up going broke, right? Because their costs end up vastly outstripping what they actually raised because they promised too much or, you know, did stupid things, basically. So this is Wizards wanting its cut mainly out of big Kickstarter projects. Yeah, that's a great look on you there, Reedwell. Doing some personal grooming right in front of the camera. Why not? That's okay. I didn't mean to shame you, but sorry. Okay. Anyway, this is a situation. Fundamentally, the bottom line of all this is that Wizards wants two things. It wants to more strictly control the content of third-party products, and it wants to make money off the third-party products that are doing big things, right? So they want to get more money from any of the live streaming shows that are really successful that they don't already own, and they want to make money off of the big crowd-funded third-party products. But what does this mean to you? Well, there's a few things you have to keep in mind. All right, the OGL was created at the beginning of the third edition era by Ryan Dancy, who was determined that there would never be a situation where D&D was at risk of disappearing again, because when second edition collapsed and TSR went bankrupt, there's a very real possibility, in theory, that nobody would end up owning D&D, or that whoever did would just sit on it and it would just be gone, right? Or that it would be horribly mismanaged. Some could argue that there's horrible mismanagement going on now, right? And the OGL is specifically meant to create a protection against that happening, right? And one of the clauses of the OGL is that even though people can make new OGL licenses, none of them can invalidate the earlier ones. So in practical terms, what does this mean? What it means is, if you want to do one D&D products, if that's what you want to do, you're going to have to accept this OGL, the 1.1, with its special conditions, with reporting your income, with having to present your books for political approval to Wizards, with having to pay them money if you do a live stream. That you're just going to have to live with that. That'll be the cost of business if you want to do one D&D product. But if you want to do anything earlier than that, you just keep going with OGL 1.0, right? And so they have no way of preventing that. In fact, a large part of what the OGL is just a redundancy, because it has been well established in cases that specifically refer to D&D, in fact, that you cannot copyright the rules of games. So you don't actually, if you're an OSR creator, you don't actually need to have the OGL in your product, right? You can just, use the mechanics of old school D&D, and as long as you're not using their trademarks, or you're not using their intellectual property monsters, right? Then there's nothing that they can do to prevent you from publishing, right? That's established law, And the problem comes if you want to do one D&D compatible stuff. That's the only way that you're going to be screwed. and so if your whole, the people that are going to have a problem here are the people that are currently doing DM's Guild stuff for third-party 5e products, right? Because their choices are going to be either keep trying to do 5e products and hope that they still get sales, switch to some other kind of like Pathfinder type scenario where it may be, I've been speculating that maybe somebody, it would have to be a company with resources, will make a 5e clone similar to how Pathfinder was meant to be a kind of a 3e clone, in light of the unpopularity of 4th edition, and again, in light of the unpopularity of 1 D&D. So that might be the way out for a lot of these people, but that depends. If that's a big company, that big company might not have a third-party product license, or their third-party product license might suck as much or worse as what D&D Beyond is proposing here, right? Then the third option, if you're not going to bite the bullet and go with this OGL 1.1 and its conditions, would be, you either go out of business or you go into a kind of OSR situation. I'm not saying necessarily that you're going to have a lot of these people doing 5e products that are going to start doing OSR type products, but they could do an OSR type movement like O5R, right? For a long time now, there's been a little movement of guys that call themselves the O5R, which basically they like playing 5th edition, but with old school elements incorporated into it, right? And so That's a small niche within a very small niche within the OSR. But if 5e stops being the current edition, you might get a whole big movement of people doing O5R stuff, right? Like old 5th edition products being made for the now defunct 5th edition because they don't like either 1D&D or the terms and conditions of the new OGL that they would have to write under. But in short, like this is not, if you're an OSR creator, you have zero to worry about. They can't force a 1.1 OGL on the OSR. They can only force it on their current edition that they're going to say, well, just like with 4th edition, they said, the OGL doesn't apply to 4th edition. You can't do it under 4th edition, right? And so nobody could make 4th OGL products for 4E. They could have, people can still like do third-party products with the rules of an edition and simply, not, as long as you don't break any of the trademarks or the direct intellectual property that they can have. But if you're just copying rules, then that's not something they can really do anything about, right? So they could do that, right? But with 1D&D, they're going to put this OGL in place, and creators are going to have to decide if they want to live with it or not. Now, I think, on the whole, this announcement today is going to be a contributor, I would argue, to the list. If I've got a list of points that will make 1D&D successful versus points that will make 1D&D not successful, alongside the wokeness and the nonsense, I will now add this OGL 1.1. Because even though, in fact, it means that for a lot of creators, relatively little changes, the things that do change are enough for people that are third-party creators that have a financial interest, that even just the idea that you have to submit every product to them for review is already a big imposition, right? And beyond that, they're saying, oh, well, we're only going to charge a royalty on people who make $750,000, right? But the way people's minds work, or you're only going to have to report income if you're making over $50,000 in income, right? The way people's minds work, even though we all know that the vast majority of third-party publishers don't make, most of them don't make 4 figures in income, in a year. Never mind, 5 or 6 figure incomes. Even though that's the case, everybody has that dream, right? Everybody wants to think that if they make the right, D&D source book, then they're suddenly going to have, cocaine and hookers everywhere. Like they're gonna be riding in a sports car. They're gonna be living in a mansion in California, or wherever. But California might not be the best choice these days. But you know what I mean, right? So if it's that dream that Wizards Hasbro is now interfering with, and that's not a good look. And so there are tons of people who will never ever stand a chance of making $750,000. They're going to look at the OGL 1.1 and go, wait a minute, if I make $750,000, I'm going to have to pay them some of that, and they don't even say how much. Screw that. They're gonna. I don't know why the guys. I got the hick accent, but there we go. Everybody will, at somewhere in the back of their mind, imagine that and say, well, why will I take that risk, right? That if I become a real big shot, all of a sudden I'm going to have to give a tax to Hasbro, So it's going to diminish the number of third-party publishers considerably, I think. And that, in turn, is going to diminish some of the following of the game. I don't think it's as bad as some of the woke changes that they're putting into 1D&D. I think those things are going to be worse. And it depends also on the content. It also depends on, if the virtual tabletop is like something wondrous and revolutionary, my bet is it won't be, right? Or if it's an absolute disaster, which is what the entire track record of Wizards of the Coast and virtual tabletops or online experiences has been until now, right? That's the safe bet, right? It'll probably be somewhere in between, maybe, right? Now they've actually hired some people that apparently know a bit about this sort of stuff, right? People from Microsoft. So maybe it won't be a complete disaster, but nevertheless, if that isn't a huge game-changing success for them, if the movie doesn't do spectacularly well, right, and I don't think it will. I mean, I've seen the trailer. It's trying to be a copy of a Marvel movie, and except nobody knows any of the characters and nobody gives a damn, right? If the lifestyle brand fizzles out because the fad of D&D starts to fade, right, these guys are in for a disaster. I think it's going to all of that is going to be a contributing factor. So yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say. And the most important thing is that if you're a third-party creator or you're planning to be one, as long as you're not doing it for one D&D, this news does not affect you. It is not anything dangerous to you because you are using the original OGL, the one that Ryan Dancy gave us to save the gaming world. Okay, I guess that's it for today. If you like this video, please hit like, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, share this video anywhere you think people will find it interesting or anywhere it might piss someone off. I don't know who, apart from Hasbro execs, it might piss off, but there we go. And if you want to support me, and the best thing you can always do, because even if they didn't have stuff like this, you know, Hasbro products have become crap, right? Even without the 1.1 OGL. So you're going to get a much better gaming experience. You're going to find much more interesting stuff made with the core of D&D mechanics in the OSR. The OSR has just wild stuff for it, right? So whether you want crazy gonzo fantasy like World of the Last Sun, Sword and Caravan, you know, really historical myth, you know, legends and myth role-playing, Star Adventurer, which is behind my cat's ass right now, but is, you know, short but really serious. It's only $9.99 for the print edition, right? It's a short but really sweet, really popular space opera sci-fi system. You know, you can get all of those, and any of them are going to be better than any products that you see from Wizards or Hasbro, right? So check out the OSR, check out my products in particular if you want to support me. You're going to get content that you're actually going to find inspiring and useful. You can combine it with all of your other stuff, right? That's part of the wonder of the OSR is this compatibility that it has. You can check out if you can only handle PDFs or you don't have a lot of cash. Check out my RPG Pundit Presents PDF series, 108 issues. You're going to find multiple ones that will have a topic that you'll find interesting, and they only cost between 99 cents and $4.99. You know, so it's like you're buying me a coffee, but you're getting something in return. Your support means I keep fighting the good fight. Okay, I guess that's everything for today. Currently smoking Lorenzetti egg plus Navy flake.